We've got new details about AMD's Zen 4 CPUs that, frankly, make me a little sad. But what makes me a lot happy is a paralyzed man has been able to speak using his brain in a world first, and then Valve unveiled their Steam Deck, which is their handheld gaming console. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet. And in case you want to participate in this show and you want to submit tech news for me to cover on this very here platform, you can do so over at our Discord server, which is linked in the video description. We'd love to have you join, be part of the community, give us some of your articles that you want me to talk about, give us some of your feedback, let me know what you think about it. We have a great time over there, all right? And I am not having a great time when it comes to Zen 4 Raphael CPUs because known leakers are now confirming details that were a bit more speculative previously and are now being more concrete, which is that the highest end one is not going to have more than 16 cores. This is something that just, I want more. Like, there was a rumor that a 24 core was coming out, so I'm a little bit bummed about that, but that's not necessarily the biggest issue. But actually the biggest thing is that the TDP of the highest end chip is going to be 170 watts. A lot of people like to make fun of Intel for being hot and just giant thermonuclear chips that could destroy your entire continent. But it looks like AMD might be trending in that direction as well. If the flagship chip of the 6950X or the 7950X, there's debate about what the number scheme is going to be. 6000 series might be reserved for APUs as some of the speculation. Anyways, 170 watt TDP would be roughly 70% more than the 105 watt TDP on the 5950X. But also considering the fact that we're expecting some major performance increases between the tune of 20 and 30%, based on previous rumors. Obviously take that with a huge grain of salt, don't necessarily substantiate that that's going to happen, but if you consider that they're trying to milk every last bit of power juice from that chip's teeth, they're doing that at the cost of TDP. This could mean that we're getting very powerful chips, not with more cores, but with just higher throughput and them being more powerful overall. Kind of like how when Goku showed up on Namek, it was all strong and they didn't even know it. He could hide his power level, and then bam, when he needed it in that one instance, 170 watt TDP just punches Raccoon right in the stomach. That's what Lisa Su is going to do to your PC. What do you think of the 6950X not being able to get more than 16 cores? What do you think of the 170 watt TDP? What do you want to see out of AMD Zen 4? Let me know down below in the comments. But TSMC wants to see more chips being produced. However, they're not so confident that they're going to be able to alleviate the bottleneck this year, with TSMC having record revenue, but also saying that in 2023 is roughly when they're hoping that they can offer more capacity to consumers and that the chip shortage should actually last into 2022. No, that's not directly just talking about things like CPUs and GPUs. That's also referring to things that are going on in the automobile industry or in the home automation industry. There's chip shortages all around, not just on the gaming side of things. So I wouldn't necessarily take this as GPUs are never going to come back in stock, but just be forewarned that adding additional capacity to all of these fabrication facilities takes a little bit. And it took a little bit for Elgato to come out with their hotly anticipated items that they've been teasing for weeks now. Been wondering what it was. I thought it was a camera, and it turns out that it's just a really expensive webcam. You want Elgato's face cam? Well, now you can buy it for a measly price of, oh, how much is it? How much is this bad boy? $200. Well, in comparisons to the Logitech Brio, it beats it out in certain instances. It does slightly worse in certain instances, but given the webcam price point market, it's actually not such a terrible price. I'm actually more personally excited for the Wave XLR, which is a microphone interface and digital mixing solution, which will allow you to connect XLR mics to it and has a better pricing of $160, but then they also show off that it's going to come in a bunch of different colors, so I have to wait until that happens before I decide to even pick one of these up. But I can tell you right now, I'm picking two of these up. Cooler Master showcasing the new colors on their NR200P, which personally has been my favorite ITX case to build in. It's just so gosh dang easy. Cooler Master really knocked it out of the park with that case, and now they're launching it in 4 new colorways: green, pink, orange, and purple. Those top 2 are freaking hot news colors. All right, just Cooler Master, you got my details. I'll more, you know what, I'll pay for it. Just let me get them. All right, could you imagine 2 PCs sitting right here? Hot news. It's a lovely world. The pink's a little off, but that blue looks Chef's kiss. But no chefs are kissing because it's time for Cryptostonks. All right, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin having another rough day, down 3.67% in the last 24 hours to be at 31,648. It just seems like this week was not the week for crypto at all. Ethereum down roughly 4% to be at $1,900. Dogecoin down 7.75% to be at 18.2 cents. Just a rough week overall in the crypto market. GameStop down 0.48% on the day, a little bit up in after hours trading, closing at 166.82. AMC, however, regaining some of the losses that they had, up 7.69% to be at $36, and then gaining an additional 7.83% in after hours trading. And Intel's trying to get in before hours trading when it comes to Windows 11 because out of all three GPU companies, they are the first to release an official non-beta GPU driver for Windows 11, which is great if their GPU drivers were any good. You might remember over on UFD Tech, I reviewed the DG1Z GPU. You can check out the video right up there. And suffice it to say, the driver was the bane of my existence, with the card crashing in nearly every single DirectX 12 game. It was a rough time. So just because they're first doesn't mean they're any good whatsoever. But we're expecting Alder Lake to be somewhat decent, drivers notwithstanding, and now we have specs of the top Alder Lake S chips being revealed. The 12900K obviously being 5.3 gigahertz turbo clock. We talked about that in a previous episode of Hot News this week. The i7 and the i5s also have pretty decent turbo clock boosts, but you will also notice that their PL2 power limit will be around 228 watts, with the PL1 being 125, so those will still be hot and spicy chips. But considering the fact that we're expecting Intel to take their chips and then just make them long boys, elongating them for Alder Lake, it makes sense that they're going to have a lot of heat to cool and dissipate because they're just giving you so much surface area to do that with. And you know who's leaving the surface? Well, Jeff Bezos. We knew that was happening on July 20th, but it turns out that the person who paid $28 million at auction to fly with Blue Origin had a scheduling conflict. I don't know how you can't make it to the premiere event of going to frickin' space with the world's richest man. Anyways, they rescheduled. They picked the second person who paid the most at the auction, which happened to be the father of the person who's going to space, which is an 18-year-old Dutch man who's going to be just going off to space because his dad's an executive in a Dutch private equity company, because of course that's how you have enough tens of millions of dollars to bid on getting your son into space. You have to be a rich kid. But he's not getting a free ride. This is not some they found the most deserving 18-year-old to be on the flight. They just found the person who had daddy's deepest pockets. Speaking of being a dad, though, this next article gets me incredibly excited because a severely paralyzed man was able to communicate using his brain function by taking his brain signals that he wants to use with his vocal track and then converting that into actual text on a screen. This is amazing, being done by the University of California in San Francisco. And as far as their reporting, this is the first time that a neuroprosthetic has actually been able to do this with actually remarkable speed and accuracy. So he's getting prompted, "How are you today?" And then his brain is trying to actually say these words, and then he comes out with, "I am very good." This is just absolutely phenomenal. For a dad who has a son who is nonverbal, but I can look at him and I can see that he actually he wants to say the words, he actually wants to communicate to us. He just physically can't because of his neurodevelopmental disorder. This is amazing. I freaking love this. So they created a 50-word vocabulary that he could pick from, and then it was able to recreate the speech at 18 words per minute with 93% accuracy, with a 75% median accuracy, which is just mind-blowing. This is hell yes. Yes, absolutely freaking yes. I want my son cured, having his rare genetic disorder being a single gene mutation. Hopefully we can get a cure for that sometime soon. Eat, sleep, cure, SYNGAP1. But I'm so freaking excited for technologies like this that are happening in the meantime that can help with just bringing accessibility to people who couldn't otherwise have it due to no fault of their own, due to this is yes. More of this. In case you guys want to pick up an Eat, Sleep, Cure, SYNGAP1 mug, you can do so at the link in the video description. I'll leave a link down there. 100% of the profit goes to SYNGAP Research Fund, and all of the money that goes to SYNGAP Research Fund goes directly towards research for SYNGAP, which is the rare genetics disorder that my son has, because the administrators of SRF don't take any cut. There's 0% overhead. They actually pay for all of the overhead so that all of your donations go directly towards research. And all of your hype is going to the Steam Steam Deck, the internet went crazy when Valve finally dropped their portable gaming console that everybody wants to check out, and I am absolutely excited for that. Reservations for this thing go live as of 1 p.m. Eastern time, so you can get some time to prepare for it. There's a few hours after you're watching this episode of Hot News if you're watching it when it comes out, but this thing is this is everything I wanted, all right? The price is a little weird. Okay, it's $400 for the base model, which only has 64 gigs of an SSD, and it's only eMMC memory, which is rough. It definitely feels like Valve was like, hey, we want to hit that $400 price point. Here's what we can give you. And then the more expensive price points actually make a lot more sense. $529 to get 256 gig NVMe SSD, and then a $649 to get a 512 gig SSD, which is going to have the fastest storage as well as the premium anti-glare etched glass. So there's a lot to that $650 one, but all of them have the same actual performance specs. The only difference there is the memory and like the little extras that you get, because this is having the APU that I've been dreaming of, that I've been wanting for years, is now here, all right? It's Zen 2 plus RDNA 2 in a PC format, not just on a console, all right? This isn't the 5600G and 5700G, which are still giving us Vega graphics. No, my friends, this is a 4-core, 8-thread Zen 2 CPU, which is fine. It's a generation old. I can tolerate that. Zen 2 is honestly good enough. 8 RDNA 2 cores. Heck yes, it has a 1280 by 800 screen, so my guess is with this performance target, they're going for 720p 60, probably at roughly medium settings in a lot of the AAA titles that are out there. It's going to have 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, and then again, the storage models that we mentioned previously. There you can see the actual design of the thing. It wouldn't be Steam if they didn't have a bad controller design. It looks like the B button is trying to escape. The actual analog joysticks are in the worst position possible. They're symmetrical, which is obviously dumb from the beginning. I don't care what your argument is for the other side. You're just flat out wrong, in my opinion. So wage that war down below in the comments. And then being up that high, trying to hold it like this, gets really weird. Reminds me of Sega Game Gear almost, like big, bulky, but brilliant news is that it's running Steam OS, which is essentially just a version of Linux, and Valve coming out and saying Steam Deck is a PC, so you can install third-party software and operating systems. You want to run Windows 10 or Windows 11 on this bad boy? You're going to be able to do it. You're not going to be tied down. This is the best console ever because you can do what you want with it. Yeah, baby! So that means if you want to throw on Windows, potentially even dual boot it with SteamOS, you play all of your Steam games on the Linux side of things, but then you have something like Xbox Game Pass for PC on the Windows side, you get the ultimate portable gaming console. This is just brilliant. The price point is a little steep to get the best version at $650, but I can't deny that Valve's doing everything right when it comes to the actual like software implementation of it. Obviously, Linux support on SteamOS is going to be a little limited, but Steam has been putting in a lot of effort when it comes to Proton in order to make sure that Windows games can actually run on the Linux side of things. So Valve continuing to work on that. These things aren't expected to ship until December, so there's still some time for them to get even more popular games that are added onto that list, so you don't have to worry. In case you want to see everything that this console has, you see it has a D-pad and all of the little buttons, as well as the option button, the ABXY, the speakers on the front, it's a trackpad there, a trackpad on the left. You've got the L1, L2 buttons, R1, R2 buttons, Type-C port, a fan, headphone jack, volume buttons, power buttons, status LED. There's R4 and R5 and L4 and L5, and then a micro SD card slot on the back. It has a 40 watt-hour battery, which Steam is saying it's going to be good for between 2 and 7 hours of video gaming, depending on just what you're playing, how intensely you're playing at, what settings you're doing it at, which they said Portal 2 can go for a really long time, as well as the fact that there is going to be a dock that they're going to sell at a separate date that they do not have an ETA for. However, they did mention that if you just have a regular old USB Type-C dock, this would work with that, because again, as Valve has been saying, this is essentially just a gaming PC in a very portable form factor. But the big deal here that makes it different than everything else is that it has that semi-custom SoC that has RDNA 2 graphics. Everything else is either running on a 4500U chip, which has Vega graphics, or they're using Intel's Iris Z, which is anus from all accounts, especially personal ones that I've actually tested that damn chip with. Anyways, RDNA 2 semi-custom SoC, I'm so excited for the Steam Deck. $650 is a hard pill to swallow, but it's only $5 to reserve it right now. I know that I'm getting in on it. Are you getting in on the Steam Deck? Let me know down below in the comments. And are you expecting GPU pricing to get back to normal this year? Well, there's a report, at least that we covered in yesterday's episode of Hot News, that says that it might be. So go check that out, and I will see you guys again on Monday for the next episode of Hot News. Cheers, my friends.